Someone had told me that you can figure out if yarn is acrylic or a natural fiber by burning it. Is this a terrible idea? Let's find out.
Hi, hello, my name is Allie. I'm an independent graphic designer coming to you from just outside Toronto, and this is my channel where I talk about what I'm knitting, how it's going, and what it's costing me. But today, we're gonna be doing some organizing, both of my stash and my sort of knitting tools and notions. It's just gotten kind of out of control and we're gonna wrangle it today. But before we get into that, as for a mug and tea of the day, I am still drinking my favorite Sloan Classic Earl Grey out of my mug from Yuk Young Young Ceramics, because I'm just recording this intro from the same filming session that I did my last podcast episode, which also means I'm still wearing my Tekla top by Milena Jahala, which is designed to accommodate between a 28 to a 64-inch bust. And unfortunately, as far as cost per wear, I don't think that wearing it in 2 videos counts as 2 separate wears because it's still the same few hours. So my cost per wear for this remains at a $60 project divided by 7 wears, brings us to a current cost per wear of $8.57 Canadian. So it's now been 3.5 years since I started knitting, and I think we're due for a more sort of deliberate approach to how I'm organizing things, because the way I have things set up right now has just been sort of gradually cobbled together, you know, over the years as I've acquired things, and it's finally started to sort of collapse in on itself and feel like it's kind of leaving little small disasters scattered around my home. And I would like to get it into better shape than that. 3.5 years, a decent amount of yarn and tools and notions and just various little bits and bobs have made their way into my collection, some of which made more sense there at the time that I acquired them than they do now. You know, there are some things that, especially on the yarn front, they were things that were just gifted to me that were really nice to have at the time when I was just starting out and kind of messing around with things, just trying to learn the very basics of knitting. But now I feel like when I'm making things, I have a vision. I have a specific thing I want to make, and there are specific things that I want to make that out of. So I think there are just some things that are in my stash at this point that were just gifted to me as unwanted things from other people when I started knitting, that I used some of them, and there are others left over that I think it's time to donate them to another beginner knitters collection. You know, I think it's time for them to move on because their window of opportunity as far as potentially being used by me, I think it's gone. So in this video, I'm gonna kind of give you a tour of the current state of things and then try to kind of vlog my process of going through everything, figuring out, you know, what do I want to keep? What do I maybe want to sell? What do I want to figure out where I can donate? Did anyone watch the TLC show Clean Sweep? I think it used to come on after Trading Spaces. They would help people like clear out their house, and that's how they would divide things. They would have to make piles of all their stuff of whatever room they were clean sweeping, and it would be like, these are the things you want to keep, this is what you're going to sell in our yard sale, and this is what you're going to donate. So that's what we're going to do with all of my yarny, knitty possessions, and then figure out, okay, of the things that I'm keeping, how do I want to organize those things in a way that's better than what's going on now? Because what's going on now is it's not ideal. There's a lot of bins with just like stuff falling out of them in various rooms. But so let's get started with a little bit of a tour so you can see where we're starting from.
Okay, so to situate ourselves a little in the current situation, welcome to my knitting corner. It's not working great for a few reasons. Number 1, this bin, what a disaster. Number 2, the bin being in this corner here where I have like this lamp so I can see while I'm knitting. And the combination of these things is that it's very hard to like get in this corner properly with a vacuum without taking everything out of the corner, which is just annoying, which means that it's very prone to like a dust bunny buildup situation. Also, when I'm actually sitting here, it's just sort of out of reach. Like I have to kind of like hang over the arm of the couch in order to put things there. It's not ideal, which means that like you see this collection of strands. These are things that are really supposed to be in here in my like random ends thing where it just hasn't made it there yet. And also it's ugly. Like I don't need that to be there. This is also a fun pinpoint of when this is actually happening in time because this is my serendipity, which by the time you're seeing this is going to be probably long finished. But you know, this is going to have been a work in progress for a while. So the vision is that some of this knitting stuff is going to go from living in here, whoop, around the room, to using this TV stand, because I think that is going to be a good place to store some of these things because I can't reach them when I'm sitting on the couch anyway. So like I don't think that's really a criteria I need to keep in place. And currently this is mostly full of like board games and other things that I touch like approximately once a year. So they do not need to be this close at hand. These can definitely be demoted to storage somewhere else in the house. So that's what I'm currently thinking. And inside here, there's like 2 shelves. So there are essentially like 6 compartments where I can put things to keep them organized in here. Hopefully better than they're currently being organized here in that they're like not. I mean, they like sort of are in that I have a few different bins going on here, or not bins, but bags, like defunct project bags. Like this is all of my little pieces that are too small to actually do anything with, that I think I might use as like stuffing or something someday. But yeah, it could use some work. Okay, we've now teleported ourselves downstairs into my craft room. This is my personal like at-home Michael scrapbooking department with my scrapbooking paper stash, etc. This is, oh hello Bean. This is some knitting stuff. That black bag is not knitting stuff, but this is knitting stuff. So this is part of stuff I would like to deal with as part of this project. In this cubby, this is my yarn that I got on my trip to Peru. This is my yarn that is left over from, well, not left over, I didn't use it at all for my squiggly sweater because I bought it for that, and then I hated the color of it when it arrived, at least in the context of that project. And do I have any other yarn in here? No, just that. And so that is some stuff that I would like to work into the storage situation that I'm figuring out. This is some more like project leftover-y type stuff. Some stuff that I got from Graham's when she was cleaning out her knitting stuff. The same room is the real beauty of the crafting room. But so this is where my Swift lives, and this is also where the sewing machine I've used exactly once, I need to give back to my mother, lives, and my ball winder. And oh, these are my blocking pins, my T-pins that I've been wondering where those are. Good to know. Okay, we'll put those in my pocket. We will move those up with the rest of my blocking stuff. So yeah, these things are here, but I don't feel like my yarn stuff needs to be down here, in part just because like I do have that TV stand, I can organize it in upstairs, and I don't think down here I really have like a good opportunity to store it down here, short of buying new furniture, which I don't particularly care to do. This is where I hoard things that go in my scrapbook. Though, so I was thinking about the bins that I was thinking I was going to need to get to do this project, like, you know, dreaming of my visit to IKEA. And I was talking to Lauren about this, and she was like, remember that thing you said about prototyping? Have you prototyped your storage idea? And I was like, Lauren, we all know that taking our own advice is the worst. Why are you doing this to me? But so this is one of the bins that I had this epiphany about when Lauren forced me to consider prototyping that I realized I could probably use for this. This is the only one that is currently being used for anything. So this I would have to find a new thing to collect those in to steal that box. But the other ones are currently unused. So this one. There might even be another small one upstairs with my blocking stuff, TBD, but I have not yet found a good use for those, which is sad because I really love them. I think they're really beautiful. They're just all different sizes because they were designed to be nesting boxes, and that just means that like they don't like line up nicely like together on a shelf. So I need to figure that out. But I think that at least for prototyping that'll work, and I might even find a configuration that I like as a permanent solution. Okay, it's here. It's unboxing time. I have been eyeing this for so long. Like at the end of last year, I included some things from Thread and Maple in my like gift ideas for knitters video because I had already been coveting them for a while, and I finally bit the bullet and bought them for myself. So Thread and Maple, let's go. Oh, it comes with a little maple candy. That's cute. Okay. Okay, we have a project bag. And, okay, everything matches. It's so satisfying. Okay, we have, so I got the binder. I got the little thingy that holds like scissors and needles and other little notions. And then I got another free pair of scissors because there was like a little sale going on where you get that with the coupon code. This is one of my binder pages to go in my binder, which, oh, I have to like, this is tied up. Help me. Okay, well first I have to earn it. I'm not good enough at knots to have earned my knitting binder. Moment of truth. Oops. Wrapped. Ooh, it smells good. It smells new. Ta-da. Oh, it's so pretty. Editing Alley. So I realized I want to clarify, this is not sponsored in any way. Like I bought this with my own money. I will link all the thread and maple things that I'm talking about in the description. And just to be transparent, those are affiliate links, which means that if you do click through that link and buy, I will get a small amount of the proceeds from that sale, but it doesn't cost you any extra. So it's a nice little way you might choose to help support the channel if that's something you want to do. But yeah, I just wanted to be clear that this binder is going to pop up a lot in this organization video. And it's not because this is in any way a sponsored ad. I just decided to finally invest in it and I really love it and was really useful for organizing. So you're going to see a decent amount.
Okay. Ooh. Look at it. Look at it. It's real. Okay. So this is the binder into which this will go, and in theory, perhaps potential other pages that I will add to it next time I decide to splurge on knitting tools, which should not be anytime soon. Okay, we have instructions. Okay, I think we are going to be ready to use this to organize some of our stuff. It's very nice of it to arrive today. Today is a Saturday. This was originally supposed to deliver on Thursday, but then there was a weird, like FedEx had like a weird issue with my address, so then it got diverted. So it's been Friday, like processing that change. So I thought I wasn't gonna get it till Monday. So this is very exciting because this means that if I feel like doing some organizing this weekend, I actually now have stuff to do that with. So it's exciting. Pop this into my binder. You can see you like open these little doobie. Pop it in. Oh, it's fun. Okay, so this page, this is it's called the Notions Organizer. So scissors go here, needles go here, and then this is magnetic, pops on and off, fancy. And this holds, if you have like measuring tape that like winds up, which I do have one of that currently just kind of floats around and gets lost. So that's where that will go. And this is where these scissors will go. And there's more of the binder. And what I didn't actually realize the first several months that I spent coveting this and only discovered recently is that these pages fold in half and are like, it's just like a little portable booklet. Like you could just bring this with you inside your project bag. Brilliant, very promising. Very excited to fill this with all of my stuff and maybe actually know where my things are sometimes. Sounds great to me. The other little one that I got, which is gonna help me organize on the go, is this little buddy. It's small, goes easily in project bags. So first it has this little like zippered pouch where I will put in some like stitch markers, which, oh, it actually comes with a bunch of stitch markers. I don't think I realized that it came with stitch markers. Bonus, but so all these are like solid metal rings. So I will definitely use some of those, and I will also add in some of my little like light bulb stitch markers. So I have those with me on the go. And then inside, we have scissors and we have tapestry needles, because these are kinds of things that I often don't really anticipate to need when I take my project on the go. And then I will kind of realize, oh no, I'm at a part of the project where I kind of need that. And then I end up awkwardly like breaking yarn with my hands, which like sometimes it's fine and sometimes it hurts more than I expected to. And also like sometimes I'm just at a point where I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind weaving in the end right now, but don't have any tapestry needles with me. So now the end is just gonna dangle and kind of be in my way and be like one of a million ends to weave in later in the project. And it would have been nicer if they were just dealt with as I went. So now I will just always have them, which is nice. Look how cute it is. Ta-da! There, we're all set to do some organizing and even maple candy. Oh, that is so sweet and mapley. That's legit maple syrup. All right, let's accumulate the rest of our stuff. Okay, I am like out of breath from running up and downstairs to collect all of these things, but okay, let us survey what we've got. This is basically all of my knitting worldly possessions, except for my blocking stuff, which it all just lives in the room where I block things. So I think that it makes sense for it to continue living there. But this is everything else, including some things in here, which on a previous day, I'm so out of breath, I had mentioned
Lauren making me realize that I should prototype things with these boxes that I already had. And so that was like about a month and a half ago now that I filmed that. So that has been happening. I did put some stuff in here on sort of like a tentative storage basis just to get them out of the craft room. So they've been in here. I haven't had any like major issues with them being here. Like the premise of them being here makes sense to me. Oh, this is Disney DVD collection. So those are still there. That's gonna have to move out of here as part of this process. I did already, I think I removed board games. Yeah, so the board games already moved. The movie collection is still there. That remains to be dealt with. And this is going to become entirely knitting stuff. But the one issue that I found in doing this prototyping project of using what I had to test the idea first is that these boxes that I didn't acquire for this purpose are just not super well suited to this purpose, in part because of what I mentioned before. They're like different weird sizes. So like they get out of my own way here. Also apologies to Copper, I'm currently sitting on his bed. But some of them, like they just don't use the space super well because like some of them are tiny. So there's a lot of like vertical space being missed out on here. So I acquired, let me get this out of the way first. We went back to the original concept, which Lauren prompted me to delay buying, which, to be clear, was the correct decision, so I could fully evaluate this. But I did get my IKEA trip, and I did get my bins. So, look at that. That's gonna go in there. It uses the space pretty well. It's basically the whole height of it. There's a little bit of space that's gonna be in between them. I could see in a world where maybe I have enough stuff that I need to store, like skeins kind of getting popped in between them. But I'm hoping not, because as we're discussing all this, I don't really want to have more yarn than this at a given time. Already, like if these bins were all full of yarn, that would be too much yarn to me. They're not going to be. Other stuff's going to be in them too. But the other thing is that because this is in front of Copper's bed, where he comes to lay all the time, and he often comes in a hurry. He has a cue like in your spot, and he'll go like running to his bed. So he often lands with gusto, shall we say. And the result of that is that so much like fuzz and fluff and dust and hair ends up in here, even though I already added cardboard backing to these. Like this is just from IKEA. And if you buy this from IKEA, the mesh is like open. And I just didn't like how it looked after a while. I just decided it looked too messy. And so one day in like early COVID lockdown, when I was bored, as one is during early COVID lockdown, I used some black paint that I had kicking around, and I painted some pieces of cardboard that I had kicking around, and I hot glue gunned them to the inside of his TV cabinet. So now it's nice and closed, which does also keep some of the dust out, but a shocking amount still makes it in. So I wouldn't really want to have just like bare yarn frolicking around in here, which is why the bins, and not only the bins, but bins that have lids to help keep all of the dog stuff out of them. So we have these. I think they're going to fit well, and hopefully it's going to be very nice and satisfying to look at once this is all done. But to get there, we have to figure out what's going in the bins, what's going in which bins, and what we are evicting from the household. So get these out of the way for now, and we can kind of do an inventory and do a little bit of sorting while we're doing that inventory. So what else do I need to pull out of here? My most recent precious yarn haul, which needs to live somewhere. This might have been the wrong top to wear for recording this because I am getting warm, and this top does show maximum sweat, so maybe we'll go get changed in a sec. None of this is knitting related, so that will need to leave to finish this project, but for now, we're just gonna close it and focus on the actual knitting stuff to discern what's staying, what's leaving, what's happening. Okay, in this little box, if I put things down here, can you see? Yes, you can see over this box. That's so nice. From this angle, it doesn't look like you should, but you know, perspective. Oh yes, this is my 3 entire balls and a little bit of Touch Me mohair from We Are Knitters in the color mustard, which was so much excess left over from my No Frills cardigan. God, this was not an easy one to start with, because this is one where like, I do have some things in my Ravelry favorites that I could make with this, but like, if I'm being realistic, is it a thing that I like most want to make. Like, is it a thing that I think will make it to the top of my queue imminently? Probably not. I think it would be something that's sort of like toward the tail end of a yarn no buy. I might be like, okay, I need something to knit. Maybe this is the thing that I knit. But so given that, I'm kind of like, well, in the meantime, until I get to that point, should I see if anybody wants to buy it and just like sell it off at a discount? Like I already have my Etsy shop set up to sell my like t-shirts and stickers. So like, should I just add like a destash section to my store and see if anybody wants these for cheap? Shipping is always the problem, right? This is what often makes it hard to make secondhand sales work in like a broad geographic kind of way, because even if the item itself is at a steep discount, it's still expensive with the shipping. And if you make it not expensive in total by reducing the discount on the item even more, the seller gets almost no money at all. Like, I don't know, I might have to just try packaging these up, like weighing them, testing out, like seeing what it would cost to make a shipping label angle from there. Like maybe I only offer them like within Canada or something, so the rate is decent. I don't know. Editing me will probably have a better idea what I'm doing with this. But I think for now I'm gonna put this in a like sell question mark pile. We'll start that over here. Yeah, I need to go change because I don't want to watch a bunch of footage of myself with giant sweat stains. Okay, so we're going from my A Tree Grows in Brooklyn shirt to my New York Public Library shirt. So given that much of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn takes place at a Brooklyn branch of the New York Public Library, we haven't traveled very far thematically, but this will serve us better on the sweat stains front. So this bin in front of me feels like the monster. This is sort of all the like weirdest ones that I'm like, what am I gonna do with these things? Okay, first of all, a random light bulb stitch marker just popped out of nowhere. Good start. We love it when things that can stab us are just vibing around. I'm gonna put that in this lid to collect it for now. Other such random tidbits can go there. Actually, I know I put some random tidbits over here. Maybe I'll deal with those. I found this little, I basically just ran around my house collecting everything knitting related that I could find. So I found this little Cocoa Knits drawstring bag that I think at some point I was keeping some like stitch markers and stuff in. It's now empty, but maybe I'll use that to collect some of these bits and bobs again in a minute. I found a few stitch stoppers, which I absolutely never use. This was the thing I mentioned when I was talking about how you should prototype things in my controversial knitting opinions video. These are one of the examples I cited of like a thing I should have tried first because these were not at all useful to me. Another little, one of the little ends you can screw on to the end of interchangeable needles, like a stitch stopper. And this is my new thread and maple theme that you would have already seen in my little clip of the day that this arrived, but that's in this collection. Also have my Cocoa Knits measuring tape and this pencil case, which I have been using like on and off for containing just little notions that I need for a given project and like keeping this like in the project bag, but it's not like the right shape for this kind of thing. It was originally purchased for like pens and stuff like that. Like I did mine for other reasons and I tried to repurpose it for this. The nature of little notions, like I have to open it like this and like be so careful so everything doesn't fall out because it's shallow and just most of the things in here don't like fit the format it's designed for. I really need more of like a deep like pencil case that you open like the top of sort of thing, but that's what I've got for now. It has, oh good, it has some yarn bits that are still attached to a tapestry needle. Fascinating past me. What was the concept there? Oh, I forgot this is also, this one is a total hazard because in here is my little, what was that? Oh, that's my crochet hook. My little tube of tapestry needles, but I recently discovered that it, like the little plug that goes in it, I guess has just gotten like worn down enough over time that it no longer holds consistently. And now more often than not, when I open this, the lid is off and therefore all the needles are like swimming around inside here. Very unsafe. This is part of why I am very excited to now have this little buddy that will keep them contained, and the rest of them, like my spares, they can live somewhere that is in a more like permanent collection kind of area, like in here,
where I'm not gonna open it like on the couch and it's gonna like fall in my lap and I'm not gonna notice, and then like 2 days later I'm gonna sit on it and get impaled, you know? So I think that'll be a step up. But so we have all kinds of things now to fish out of here. So we have a highlighter, which like, should that stay in my portable Notions case? Like, I don't use paper patterns very often, so maybe that should live somewhere that's a little bit more long-term storage until I like need it in a particular use case. Honestly, same goes for my cabling needles. Like, do these really need to be in that case? My 2 little crochet hooks for repairing things, though honestly the last several months I've started using these a lot less. I've gotten much more used to and just comfortable with picking up my stitches like just with my knitting needles. Like, I kind of was forced to figure it out a couple times when I had issues with drop stitches, at times when I just had forgotten to bring one of these with me and I was like out and about. And now I feel good enough at that I'm like, why would I like go find my crochet hook to do it? It's much faster to just do it on my needles. Another stitch stopper. And then we have more needles hiding in the bottom of this, like little tiny safety hazards. We have 2 needles. These are the Luca Driftwood 4mm, which I bought as like travel needles, though my one regret with these is that I bought these kind of right before I realized that I actually want to knit most like 4mm needle patterns with a 4.5, just because I knit tight. So as far as trying to buy like my most used size in wood needles for traveling, should have bought the 4.5, but hopefully these will get more use at some point. Another crochet hook for fixing much larger errors. Here are 2 5.5mm needles that are not in my needle case after I bought a replacement set. Are both of the 5.5mm in here right now? Is that what's on this cord? No, that's my 5s. Should also no longer be on that cord. Maybe I'll deal with that. We're dealing with things today, but I'm gonna put these 5.5s down there. The 5.5s aren't in my case right now, so maybe that is my 5.5s and they just haven't made it back in, because I think I used them on my legs cardigan. That's true. I probably just had to switch down needle size for the cuff and hadn't put away the main needles. More of my little interchangeable stitch stoppers in here. I have so many of these apparently. Just the ones that came with the set. And more needles. Get out, get out. I hope this isn't deeply boring for you. I hope you're like tidying your stash or something alongside me. Okay, I think that's all of my hazardous needles now contained. Also in here, found one of the little keys for my interchangeables, which is handy so I can take this off the cord, though I haven't actually been using this most of the time that I've been changing out needles recently, because maybe like 6 months ago, and like I feel like I should have figured this out way sooner, but I was watching a video. Was it AKA Nora Knits? It might have been Nora. Someone pointed out to me that you can use light bulb stitch markers, like any of the stitch markers that open like a safety pin, you can use those to do the exact same thing. And I was like, oh, and considering that like most of my projects incorporate those somewhere at some point, that's just much more useful because it's already like there. And so I can usually find one already within arm's reach. Also have some, I used one of those safety pin ones to like pin some round stitch markers in here so that I could have those on the go in case because I've many times had this problem where I am like planning to take my project somewhere for a few hours, and then it's like, you know, I didn't anticipate that the pattern was suddenly going to be like, now put a stitch marker, and I'm like, I didn't bring one. So I thought I should just have some ready, as again, things I should have figured out a long time ago, but is in my collection, a relatively recent innovation. This I'm going to keep actually because I'm very close to the end of my legs cardigan and very close to not having to tap into another skein, and I think I'm going to. But if I can accumulate enough ends, this stuff wet splices together really, really well. So I'm like, can I just wet splice enough ends together to create enough yardage to not open another skein? That would be great. So we're gonna hang on to that. I'll put that there. Okay, so this little case is now empty minus this one little thread. I should probably have like a garbage bag over here. Okay, so now this is my Luca Cypra needle case, which also has some fluff on it. And what is missing out of here? Why do I have one 3.25mm needle? Oh, I think I'm using that maybe as the small needle, like a small left needle on my essential blanket, possibly, most likely. Okay.
Now, these are my 5mm. which means they should go here. And these are my 5.5, which means that they go here.
So currently only missing, these would be the ones that I'm currently using to finish the button band on my Lakes cardigan. That must be, like I said, the left needle on the essential blanket. So where's the other needle? It must be, because I had to buy new 5.5 and 6s because I was missing one of each. I must be using my spare either 5.5 or 6 for the other needle on that one. That makes sense. Okay, that means they're all accounted for. So what else is in here? So this is the case that when I'm going somewhere and bringing my knitting in like a slightly more long-term way, like for like a whole weekend or like even longer, as opposed to just like a day trip, I will usually pack this because this kind of has like everything. So if it's like the pattern's suddenly telling me to change needles, or I might need my measuring tape or my scissors or whatever, like this is the thing that kind of has all that in it, because it has this pocket here, and it also has this, snap this shut so I can show you without spilling everything everywhere, has this zipper pocket at the back. So this has kind of been containing all of my miscellaneous notions, but part of my thinking in acquiring the thread and maple binder that I was showing before is that this can sort of take over some of the jobs of this without me having to bring like my entire needle collection everywhere, because that is just a bit more bulk than I actually need to bring sometimes. And if you're looking at this thinking, well, but this is bigger and therefore bulkier, it is. However, the notions page can come out and kind of travel as its own little pouch. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is going to take over the role of a lot of the miscellany that's in here. And so this is going to like migrate, but we'll get to that in more detail later. It's not the time. It's not the time. We need to focus on this box of doom. So other things in this box. I have this problem where so many things, especially like I have kind of started trying to focus on buying from like smaller brands that operate more sustainably. And I'm talking mostly about like fashion wardrobe kind of stuff. And a lot of those brands give you stuff in like cotton drawstring totes, which I'm always like, oh, okay, good. Like that's a good like knitting project bag. But then you end up with a lot of knitting project bags. And as a fairly monogamous knitter, I don't really need a lot of those. And then there's also the problem that sometimes they're like really weird shapes. So like this one is not fashion related. This is what I think my Swift maybe came in. I hope this is not high enough definition that you can see how much dog hair is on this. My God. Maybe just turn down your video quality today. So like, I think I'm just gonna start a pile of these bags, and then I can assess them once I have all of them out and decide like what I'm actually keeping and what I might be able to find a different purpose for. Another bag that clothes came in, I think this was from Lucy and Yak. I think Lucy and Yak is the one that repurposes like garbaged saris into these like silk bags. This one has been punctured. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but there's like a million little holes in it from needles at various times. This has the remnants of the wool from We Are Knitters, which I originally used in my reading socks. No, this has been so many things because, right, they accidentally sent me twice as much as they were supposed to. So I bought it to make my Keone scarf, which I made. This was well before my channel. And then I used the leftovers to make a pair of reading socks, which I still desperately need to darn. That's on me. And then my nephew wanted to learn to knit, and he made a little cowl out of it. And I still have this left, but realistically, like, this isn't, like, it looks like a lot, but because of how thick it is, it's actually very little yardage. So what do I do with this? I don't know. This is one that might just go into the like donate pile. I did a little bit of research and found that I think one of the yarn shops that's kind of drivable from me has like a collection thing that they like donate to different like kids community craft kind of stuff. And then I think there was also a sort of, again, like kids community craft organization that I could just donate it directly to, but you have to like set up an appointment to donate. So I'm just gonna kind of put together things that I think would be good for that. And then the next step will be figuring out like exactly, so much fuzz, where and when that's going somewhere. Okay, dear Lord, okay. Well, this used to be wound up reasonably. I made my Iverson headband, I think it's called, out of this, and then I had a bunch left over, and then I think my niece was working on a little swatch, nothing very specific out of it. And apparently, somewhere in its transport, it suffered a poor fate. So this is nice, it's fluffy. I think this was like alpaca or something. Maybe this will be a project for another day. For now, it's gonna go into the donate pile, but we're gonna have to wrangle it first. I just fear that if I spend the next half hour doing that, it's gonna really derail this project. So, okay, what else do we have? We have almost an entire skein of the Bernat Fluffy. This is what I used to make my Christmas stockings last year, and I got so close to being done them, and I ran out of yarn. So I had to buy a whole other one of these, which is so annoying because this is enormous. I used like 30 yards of it, like nothing. That's unfortunate. It's almost a whole thing, but also I don't really know what I would want to do with this again. It's 90% polyester, 10% nylon, which is just not usually what I want to knit things out of. It was kind of a one-off for me because it was for like a household item rather than clothing, but I don't really see myself using it for other household things. So this might be a donate item. I think this one, like, it's so cheap in store that I don't think trying to sell it is at all worth the effort. Like, I don't think anyone would pay shipping to have that shipped to them. Okay, what else do we have? We have, this is now getting into yarn that came from Graham's when she was clearing out her yarn collection. And so some of this is like ancient. So like Southern Cross Daphne. I went into all of these in great detail in my video that I filmed right after I like acquired all of this from her. So if you're curious about all of the things in this haul, I would say go check out that one. I'm not going to get super into it today, but I think that today I just have to come to terms with the fact that like I'm probably not actually going to use a lot of these. Sorry, Grams, if you're watching. I just think that like I used some of it kind of very early in my knitting journey, and it was really useful for kind of getting oriented and figuring out how to knit and what I like and what I want to make and things like that. But I think that now I'm just at a point where I have a specific idea of things I want to make, and I want to go like seek out the best yarn that I want to use for doing that thing and trying to reverse engineer it from interesting nubbly textured yarn. I just don't think is probably what's going to happen most of the time, and I think that maybe I just need to accept that. So maybe that will go in the donate pile. I feel like some like 10-year-old in like a community craft group would think that this is the best. So perfect. Also, this big roll of something. It's kind of like a fingering weight something. Is it, actually someone had told me that you can figure out if yarn is acrylic or a natural fiber by burning it. Do we try this today? Is this a terrible idea? The concept is that if it's acrylic, it'll melt, and if it's natural fiber, it'll burn. Can I safely do this here? Okay, yes, so here's what we're gonna do for safety precautions. I'm just gonna cut off a little piece so that if it does start burning, it can't just keep burning. If it starts burning, I can just drop it into my candle, and we don't have to be concerned about it. This is my I Smell Snow Lorelei Gilmore candle. Let's light it. Come on. There we go. Okay. Okay, we have flameage. Is this the worst idea I've ever had? Let's find out. Don't try this at home. Make sure you have an appropriate safe setup to try this. That's a natural fiber, folks. Yeah. That actually appears to, well, is it a bit of both? Some of it looks kind of melty, but it definitely started traveling up the strand. I don't know if that was on camera well enough for you to see. If you know, let me know. But like the flame definitely caught on to this. My guess is that it's probably like a natural fiber with like a little bit of nylon or something for reinforcement. Like maybe it's like a sock yarn. I'm just gonna trim the end off there in case it's still hot. It can stay living in this little jar. Wow, what an exciting experiment. The conclusion is, I still don't really know. Though actually, if I feel the end of this, it does feel quite plasticky now. Melted plastic. Yeah, I definitely don't think it's entirely natural fiber. Based on the fact that it did catch fire, I think that means it's both. Correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless, I think that this is just like the color of my skin, and therefore am I ever gonna wear anything that is this color? Probably not. So This is probably best to pass along. And I think that for someone who does not have my skin tone, this could be a great color. It's just not me. So hopefully if we donate that, somebody will get good use out of it. So I should add this to my, oh my God, another stitch marker fell out. They're everywhere. Okay, we'll add this to my project bag pile for later discernment. I guess my candle can go back where it belongs. We have, why is this alone? I know I have a bunch of these. This is more of the Grams collection. This is some 100% acrylic black yarn. There's a lot of it. It's also very old, so I don't know if that like affects how it knits up. Like this is from the brand Eaton, as in if you're Canadian, the Eaton Center. That company hasn't existed in a really long time. Yeah, like what would I make with this much acrylic yarn? Because I think there's a lot of it somewhere. I guess I need to locate the rest of it before I can really decide what to do with that. I do have, oh my God, so much hair. I do have, this is a full skein of Santa's Garn Double Sunday that I got from my friend Amy when she was doing a destash. And this I do intend to use probably to make some socks for my dad at some point. There is more of this somewhere because I used a little bit of it, I think, to do some like striped socks, possibly. So this I'm going to keep. I need to locate the rest of it. This here, oh, this is more, okay. These are just like, I have a few different boxes of like bits and bobs of yarn. I'm trying to find something empty that I can start collecting yarn that I intend to keep. And I guess I can just use one of my new IKEA bins. I guess that would be rational. I'm just gonna toss that over there. Keep, okay. What else do we have? This is leftovers of Cascade 220 Superwash from my, what's it called? My like poppy tank that I did. I just needed like little bits of black for the intarsia details. What am I gonna do with that? I guess this, will I use this? I think this maybe warrants being in like a scrap collection. So I guess I need to keep a separate collections of yarn to keep. Some is like just keeping in my scrap stash in case I do a scrappy project, in hopes of doing a scrappy project, I should say. And one is more like, you know, this is a whole skein of Double Sunday. Like this is like a whole project's worth of, oh, here's my receipt from IKEA, since we like to talk about what things cost on this channel. So those cost a total of $77.94 for 6 of them because they were $12.99 each. $9.99 for the bin, $3 for the lid if you're curious. You don't have to buy them both. And so including tax, that was $88.07 for my 6 bins. Okay, so stash bin. What on earth is in here? Okay, this is leftovers of my Shellridge Fiber Code Navy from my squiggle sweater. This is sort of a, somewhere between a DK or a worsted weight. Shellridge is from in Canada, so that's fun. This, I think, just goes in my like scrap bin. It's a nice navy. Maybe I can use it at some point for something. This is the start of a sock that I abandoned using this yarn that I had in my stash. This was another one that was gifted to me just when I started knitting. I don't remember if this one was Grams or Amy, but I was just sort of like, I'm learning to knit, let's just knit something. And I think kind of partway through this, I got struck with like, oh, here's a project I actually really want to make. And then I had no desire to come back to this. So this one I think must be frogged. It's an acrylic or superwash or something. It feels like it's probably either a superwash or an acrylic. It's just like, it's very soft. What do I do with this? It feels wrong to use it as a scrap considering I didn't really use it as a project. I feel like it would be unearned in a scrap project, if that makes any sense at all. I think that maybe there's a decent amount of it here if I frog this, so maybe I should add this to the donate pile. Like I think that's like a whole ball if I frog that, so I can just like recake it and that'll be a good donation. This is leftover from my quilt jacket, or because I use the same yarn for both projects, my Laura Del Garde intarsia sweater. So that's just scrap that I can keep. Ooh, to readjust. I'm sitting here too long. And in here, this is more, I used some of this when I made Grams's headband. What do this is like an awkward, it's an awkward amount. I don't know. I don't know what to do with this. I think I'm gonna use 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 I guess that might be useful in a scrap project, actually. I'll hang on to that. And then this is more Cascade 220 leftover from my poppy top, which was itself made of leftovers from my squiggle top. And I also made this tank top, what's it called? Like Sunny Days? Sunny something? Because with that one, I was trying to support my local yarn store. RIP, is now out of business, but I tried. And to order, they didn't carry the color that I wanted, but they will custom order things in for you. But there was like a 5 skein minimum. So I ordered 5 skeins. Did not need 5 skeins. So much leftovers, even after multiple leftover projects. But again, hopefully that can be useful in a scrappy project. Speaking of RIP, this is in fact the yarn store in question that used to exist. That can go in my project bag pile. Oh, here's this whole thing is much of the rest of the yarn from Graham. So the rest of those black Eaton balls are in here. There's all kinds of things in here, but most of which is like things that I'm like, am I ever gonna use this? It's mostly like acrylic colors that I find tend to look awkward on me, things like that. So I think that these are all like completely brand new, untouched balls. They just happen to be extremely old. But this I just pulled out. This was a prototype mitt that Graham's made me that I showed before last time this came up on the channel. But my favorite part of this is how hilarious the thumb is. We see why the prototype was necessary. But that's just funny, so I'm gonna keep that. But yeah, I think this honestly should just go straight probably to the donation, wherever that ends up going. But I just feel like that's probably going to make some like children in a little community class happier than it will probably make me at this stage of my knitting pickiness levels. So okay, this is a brand new skein. This is from Ginger Twist Studio. I got this from Amy. So this is a very nice like hand-dyed yarn, and there's also a little bit of scrap that goes with it. So this is a whole skein of, I guess, like a fingering weight. This is pretty. We know, highly recorded, I do struggle with variegated yarn, but this one is kind of like I've talked about before. I tend to like it when it's mostly color variegation rather than like light dark variegation. And I did recently discover that I quite like variegated yarn sometimes in color work. So maybe this could actually make for a good accent color in a color work, and that would make sense with this amount of it. So there might be kind of renewed life in this. I'm gonna put this with the Sandnes Garn Double Sunday. That's more like, that might actually be its own like whole kind of project deal, rather than just like part of a scrap thing. This is just a little bit more of the Shell Ridge Fiber Co. scrap. This is like a nothing. We really need to start a garbage pile over here. I'll just use this lid for now. Okay. Cascade superwash label. We don't need that. Actually, we need a separate recycling and garbage pile. We are being responsible, friends. Don't forget to recycle. Also, don't put things with a bunch of food on them in the recycling, because those don't recycle and it ruins the batch of recycling. PSA. At least that's true here. Maybe it's different in different places, but other things I have in here, I have a bunch of more Cascade that's sort of bunched together because I was using it. I started to make a pair of marled socks with, this was already leftover yarn from another project that I made years ago. Am I gonna use this for something? The fact that it's all wound up together is quite annoying as far as the idea of scrap, but maybe I'll want some gray and some black when I'm working on a scrappy project. Maybe I'll be upset if I don't keep it. Will I be upset if I don't keep it? I guess I should maybe, anything that I decide like scrap that I want to keep, if it's in multiple little balls, I should probably like join with like the magic knot or wet splice and at least make it like one whole organized ball. Like if I'm gonna keep it, I have to do that to both like justify, like indicate like, okay, I care enough about keeping this and I'm not just avoiding throwing it out or rehoming it in some way, that I'm willing to put in the time to do that, and that when I actually do want to use it, I'm more likely to do that because it's like ready to go. But again, I don't want to start doing that in the middle of doing this, because I think that will just make this drag on forever and it just won't happen. But so that's going to be a next step. So for now, I'm going to put this in the scrap pile, but knowing that both the scrap pile and the donate pile, I'm going to have to go through and sort of get them more organized than they currently are. More ball bands that can go over here. We also have this bag that's more sort of leftover stuff. Oh, I have more of this. I have more of this than I thought that I did. Okay, does that change my mind about it being in the donation pile? Because now I have this much of it. But again, like, it's really not a lot of yardage. I think that because this is my first time really doing a big stash organization, maybe what makes the most sense is if anything like this that I'm on the fence about, of like maybe I could actually like make a real project I would like out of that, I should keep in stash for now. But anything that is like potentially like a real project and not just like, oh, I might use this as part of a scrappy project someday, but it's not in any way gonna like shape the project itself, you know what I mean? Anything that could like shape a project that I'm keeping on that basis, I need to actually like document in my Ravelry so that when I'm browsing projects, I have it on hand to know like how much I have. Do I have enough of this to do it? Like, can I make that project with something that I already have? I think we're gonna operate on that basis, and then next time I feel like my stash needs some organizing, I will have more data to go off of, like, was that useful? Did I use yarn that was already kicking around in my stash because it was easier for me to see and realize that I have something that would be good for this pattern? Or does it just still rot in a stash collection? We're gonna go with that logic this time around. Okay, we have another ball of Filcolana Peruvian, which I don't think it's actually new. I think I just center pulled from it and started some socks for Dad with it using a little bit of this, but I will definitely use this for more Dad socks, so that can go in that bin. Most of the rest of it is just scraps. Oh, here's more though, Filcolana Peruvian, same color, so I'll keep that together. This is Cascade 220. This is from my sister's Me New cardigan. How much of that do I have? I have probably like a whole ball combined of that, but I have a decent amount of Cascade, which would all go well together. So maybe I should, yeah, I'll keep that. I was thinking like it's a whole ball. I could probably actually like donate that and have it be useful to somebody, but maybe I'll hang on to it as part of my scraps for, again, at least a bit longer, until I have a better sense of whether that will make its way into something. This is this the Santa Scarn Double Sunday? Yes, this is the rest of Double Sunday. So those will live together. Again, these are things that are gonna need to be properly documented before they make it fully integrated into the stash. Oh, this is from my Colette. This is my Anime or Wandering Flock? I think Wandering Flock soft silk mohair in the color Citrine. It's like neon, look at it. And the two little balls that I was using for my sleeves in my Ziploc that were like keeping it organized and from like tangling with each other. But so combined, it's like a decent amount of this. And because I think I needed like, what did I need? Like 2 and a bit of it or something. Like I think I had one skein that I really didn't need to use like a whole lot of. Maybe I should be getting a scale over here and weighing. But I need to look up like how big this original skein is. I fear that this is spiraling into more work in one sitting than I really thought it was going to be. I really thought I could like pop this out in an hour, like at least this original stage. Is my living room just gonna have to stay in this state for a few days while I poke away at this on and off? Because I kind of have like a chair in an awkward place so that my camera can sit on it, and I have like a light set up on the floor, and it's a whole, and then of course all the things that you can see in frame and the things that you can't, because I've been, like my donation pile is here, you can't see that, etc. It expands beyond what you can see. Like, is this scrap? Is this project? Is this donation? Is it actually almost a whole skein that could be sold for something? I don't know. Is my iPad even charged? Because my phone is filming, my laptop is my monitor. That leaves but one device. Is the iPad alive? That is the question. How long? Oh my God, I've been filming for 54 minutes already. Oh God, help me. Okay, I have more of the Cascade in the Me New cardigan color. There's quite a lot of that actually. Okay, I think I'm realizing I probably need a bin for different sizes of scrap, and I'm not gonna break it down in like too detail of a way, but I do think that having like a fingering weight and like a DK/worsted weight would probably be wise. So I think so far everything in here is in the, yeah, like DK or worsted category. Now we're getting into, this is some leftover knitting for olive merino, so fingering weight, more of it. That's left over from my Lyon sweater. This is left over from like a very early project. I think this, what is this? I think it's like a wool nylon blend or something. I hate this color. I think this is so ugly. Donate. Okay, these are leftovers of my Le Bien-Aimé Felix in Winterfell that I made my Fausta top out of. Obsessed with this color. I'll keep that as fingering weight scrap. Also have Blue Tit from Knitting for Olive Merino. Add that to my fingering weight. And some of the matching mohair for that. So do I now just have like mohair scrap also? I don't know if mohair scrap is a kind of scrap worth me collecting because I use it for so many fewer projects that like, am I ever gonna have a scrappy project's worth of mohair that like goes with the non-mohair, you know what I mean? I don't know, but here's a little bit of a purple unicorn, Knitting for Olive also. Plus a little bit more, actually. I have more of the accompanying merino from when I did my Barnsley sweater. And why do I have frogged yarn from that project? I remember making that project longer. When did I rip something out? I must have just like made a mistake and ripped it out and then just like fixed it using new yarn. That's okay, that's fun. That's funny, like all of the thicker ones were on top and now we're getting into like all thinner ones. Here's a little bit left of my budgie from Hedgehog Fibers from my Declutter top and some pure silk. Is this really all that was left of pure silk from my tank top? When I did my Sailor Swift last summer, tiniest bit of scrap. And then again, back to my, oh no, God, we love frogged yarn. Why is this frogged? This is from my Lyon sweater. What did I frog in my Lyon sweater? See, it's how quickly it leaves the brain. I'm sure it was very annoying at the time. Now I don't even remember. Oh, and more Blue Tit. Okay, I have a decent amount of that actually. Mustard. This was from my No Frills cardigan, and I also have some of that is again frogged, mixed up with the mohair. Oh, here's my swatch for that. Oh no, I was actually swatching when I was talking about projects that I might do with the leftover. I was swatching for the Nayle sweater. I was trying to see, because it tells you to hold, it's like 3 or 4 strands together, but of mohair. Touch Me Mohair from We Are Knitters it's I think it's more alpaca, if I'm remembering right, than mohair, so it's a little bit fuzzier, and I was wondering could I make it work with 2 strands, because I didn't actually have enough yardage for 3 or 4, but I did have enough yardage for 2. And I concluded that like if what I'm going for is kind of like a light, airy, sort of semi-transparent, then the answer is yes. Not sure. But yeah, so that's more of that. What do I do with the swatch? I feel like this is really, we're just opening more questions than anything right now. Do I have time to resolve all of this on the timeline that I wanted to be done this project on? Do I need to change my project parameters? Am I making it more work than it needs to be by saying that I should like rewind all of these and join them and whatever? This is more scrap from my Laura Del Guard sweater. Oh, this matches, scrap that was already in that pile. Yeah, I think that I can be, especially considering how picky I am about things, it makes sense to have more scrap options than less. So I think it makes sense to be generous in terms of what I keep on those and less generous in terms of what I keep on the like things I haven't touched at all, like that I was just given. I think it makes sense to give those away, but to keep my scrappy collection kind of in its current state, because I think I've gone through everything now as far as scraps, and like that's what I've got. This is my heavier weight and these are my fingering weight. That doesn't seem too bad, and I feel like I can start to see little like potential of things coming together in different ways. These could be combined into something, and if I want a hope of ever liking a scrappy project, I think I need to keep my options as open as they can be. So I will keep those as they are for now, I think, and we'll see how the rest of this project goes. If I feel ambitious enough to actually like document all of these, like get them all separated, the ones that are stuck together, frog things need to be frogged, join little balls that are all awkward and separate, find out how much I have of each color, figure out what that means for yardage. Because then if I'm trying to look at a pattern and figure out could I make it work with what I have, I'll have an idea based off of my quantities. If I can do that, we'll see if I'm that ambitious or not, because I'm trying to get this video done so that it's ready like in advance to go up like right when I get back home from a trip. So I don't have to like film and edit a video and get it out right after I get home. But it does mean that I'm kind of on a deadline of trying to get this done before that trip. So we'll see what happens. That now leaves us with this ginormous project bag, which this is from my Monos suitcase, which apparently, like many small clothing brands, likes to give you cotton drawstring bags, and it was good for storing a bunch of yarn in. Oh, that's not, I lied, that's not quite the end of our scraps. So we have this little box, which has, this is left over from my serendipity. This is like a funny weight. Like it really can, like it could definitely be used as a fingering, but it also bloomed nicely and held its own in my serendipity, which is I think a DK. Okay, I also have just a bunch of labels in here that are not attached to things. So it's like, what is this? Oh, this might be this one. Is this the Ancient Arts yarn? What does it say? Scotty Dog. I feel like this looks like a Scotty Dog colorway. Do you agree? It's like dark gray and black, kind of variegated. So that's a 49% wool, 34% mohair, 11% nylon. Like a sock yarn. It's not a lot of it though. So I don't think that I ever actually made anything with this. I think this was just scrap from Amy's collection that she'd given me when I started knitting. Where are you attached to? Why do you just keep... Oh, I did. I started the cuff of a sock before I understood gauge. So I did not understand that this yarn was far too small to work with that pattern that I was trying to follow, and therefore it did not work. So I abandoned that, and now I have the tiny little cuff of a sock. So I didn't actually make anything with this yarn, which like by our previous logic would mean that it doesn't go in my scrap stash. But it is a very scrap amount, and I don't dislike it. Like maybe it would be a useful neutral to mix in to like a scrappy project. It can stay for now. The little tiny cuff does not need to stay. This was a tiny bit of scrap left over. I think I got this yarn from either Amy or Graham's, and I made my mom a little headband out of it. But there's just the smallest amount left. And it's very, like, can you see this? It's like a boucle. I'm not gonna use that for anything. And it's so little that I don't think it would be a useful donation for anyone. So what is this? This is a very small amount of something that looks maybe hand-dyed, but I have not knit anything. This must have just been an Amy scrap in the collection of things she sent me. Again, when I just started knitting. Is that enough that anybody, I mean, it's fairly fine. Does someone want that? I don't know, I'll put it in the donation pile. We'll see. More scrap from my Laura Delgard and Tarja sweater. Okay, this little scrap is, I believe, the La Bien-Aimée winter DK left over from my serendipity. That can go in the scrap box. What is this? What are you from? Not to be confused with, I think this is the San Nisgarn Sunday that I used in my Magnolia Bloom, I want to say. That's a fingering weight. I'll keep that one in my fingering weights. Oh God, this is one that really, really needs some wrangling. But yeah, TBD if the scrap wrangling is going to be part of this project or a later project. Oh my God, okay. This is not ideal. There's two different yarns like stuck in amongst each other, which is why I'm trying to fight with it and not just putting it all in because I want to put one of these in and not the other, I think. This is when I was trying to learn cabling. This was a little cable test swatch. I wish that I had known that this swatch was in here. I would have stuck that in my scrapbook for the year that I started knitting. But at this point, I don't know if there's much point in keeping this little swatch. What is in this box? Okay, now we're getting into like actual project yarn. So this is my Cascade. I've talked about this several times. I got this for my squiggle sweater. It was not the color I thought it was gonna be. It's called navy. This is not navy. So I am planning to hopefully use this in a project either this summer or this fall. So stay tuned, but this is gonna get used. So this is a keeper for sure. And then in here, this is my yarn that I got in Peru. So obviously a keeper. I bought a sweater's quantity of yarn to use, planning to use this hopefully this fall. So that's definitely staying. We've gone through everything now except for this bin here, which is more like tools and notion-y stuff as opposed to yarn. So this was the Ziploc that I was using to keep those apart. I guess I might as well keep this because I've used that method for several sleeves at this point. Threaded maple binder. As previously discussed, this will become relevant when we're like organizing the notions. Speaking of which, more drawstring bags to add to the collection. I also found just kind of around my house when I had the thought that like that little case that I showed before is a really bad fit for knitting notions. I found a couple of things around my house that might be good fits that aren't currently being used for anything. So I had this little pouch and this little pouch. What a good pouch. So I thought I would add those to the pile in case they became useful. This is part of that Cascade stash. I'll add that in. I was just using that to make a swatch to test for the project that I'm thinking about. Cord in here that I often use for filming, though I'm using one. How many of these do I have? Why is this here? This is a chart from, is this the, oh no, this is the Colette. Yeah, I don't need that anymore. That's a garbage. Binder clip I might want for something. I'll add that to my little Notions collection. Swatch for my serendipity. That I want to keep for my scrapbook. This is my giant tube of ends. So I've talked about this before. Oh no, this is the bag that my Swift came in. So the other one must have been from the ball winder. But this funny little bolster pillow shaped thing is just full of all the little, you see, like ends, like when I weave in ends and then I snip off the excess, it's all in here. And someday I will use it to stuff a pillow or something. So that's there. And there's also more random ends in here that need to be in there. Here's another drawstring bag. Anything in here? No, nothing currently in here. This one I often use as a project bag. Another drawstring bag. What's in here? In a recent video, not that recent, probably a couple months ago, I said that I didn't know what I had done with the little finger covers that I made to go with my dog walking gloves. I'd just been using them as like fingerless gloves and they were serving well. And I was saying, honestly, I probably didn't need to make this part. Here it is though. Good to know. Also in here is a little spool of thread that I had used to sew the snaps onto those, and I gave up partway through. I only sewed half the snaps on because I hated sewing them on so much. Good luck to me having to attach buttons onto my legs cardigan soon. And here's the snaps I didn't get around to attaching. I'll add this to my Notions collection. Oh, my legs cardigan swatch, which I frankly might have to cannibalize soon in an effort to not break into a skein to use like a tiny bit of it. We'll see if that's enough. Probably not. Here is one of the 2 skeins that I'm hoping to not have to use. This is a little gift bag that one of my yarn purchases came in. Anything in it? Oh, my knitting loft receipt. That's blank, so I'll keep that. I keep empty gift bags and then I just like calligraphy like happy birthday or Merry Christmas or whatever on them. So that can stay. That will get reused. What was this? This must have been another like sleeve wrangling bag. Wow, yeah, this really looks worse here than when I started. Here are this is the circular that came with my essential blanket. And so these are the sorts of things that made me, or is it this one? I have 2 different sizes. I don't remember which is from which, but these are the sorts of things that made me want to get the knitting binder, because for a long time, my Luca Cypra needle thingy did a good job of organizing all the stuff I had, but I've now just accumulated enough kind of like random one-offs, and like with the wood needles I've got for traveling. Oh, one of these I did buy for traveling this year. So just things like that my collection is just like grown with some more miscellany that I don't know how to store, and that's how we've ended up here. And here is my little, I still haven't dealt with this, my little hand sewing machine that I intended to use to put labels on that I am still too scared to figure out how to use. So that's a project for another day. These can go in my Notions tray for now. Another little project bag. This one I actually acquired on purpose. Family brought this back for me. Very nice of them. Add this to our pile. Here is where all those little stitch stoppers are supposed to live, but I never use them. So what do I do with those? Great question. Here's one of my cable. Okay, this is, now I'm like, what is even the point of taking all these out? Because I don't know what I'm doing with them. Yeah, this is this is more work than I thought this was gonna be, friends. Okay, let's maybe start to get some things put away rather than trying to like do everything all at once. Let's pretend we didn't open this bin. Let's do the things that are easy. Let's do like project quantity yarn. Oh my God, these like stick together. Okay, Peru yarn. In we go. In a bin. We love to see it. Add a lid. It's good to go. That can go like in the bottom shelf. This is a shelf that's tricky because there's like a power bar in here, but if I can nudge that further back. Yeah, okay, that still fits perfectly. Great, okay, hairs, get off of there. Oh, and there's a red nail polish mark on there. Of course there is. Wouldn't be mine if it didn't have a red nail polish mark on it. Now, our Libana make. As much as I feel like this would look so much nicer if it was not in this bag, I think that just for the purpose of keeping it like as hairless as possible, since it came in a bag, I might as well keep it in a bag and just put that in here. So, hi. You coming to say hi? You scoping out the collection? Can I have a high five? Okay, so that's that. And I can put that. Oh my God, it hurts to stand up after that long. I can put that in there. Progress, do you see it? Progress. progress. Now, what are we gonna have? Okay, we're gonna have 2 different weights of scrap. Like potential project quantities of scrap, or just things that aren't tied to specific projects, like the dad's sock yarn. Am I already running out of bins? Do I have to reevaluate? Because if I have those 2 for that, and then I still have my superwash, my Cascade, like, is that its own whole bin, or does that share a bin? Well, I guess some of these project quantities don't need to be alone in one of these bins because they're small. So these 2 can share a bin. Okay, so this is for my ardent top. This is part of why, though, I'm like, I have more than enough yarn right now, because like the Peru yarn, that's its own project that I have in mind, very specific project. Then there's the La BNMA, have in mind, specific project. Ardent top, specific project. Tank top, specific project. Like I don't like having my like knitting life planned out this far in advance, because it just makes me feel like stuck, like I can't find anything else that I like and want to make, and it makes me feel like I have like a to-do list I have to power through. So I would like to really cool it on that front. That's 2 projects in there, and I think maybe a sort of mental block on acquiring more yarn can be the idea of like, well, I only have 3 bins for projects worth of yarn and they're all full right now. So too bad for you. Okay, you know what? I'm realizing that this is taking a lot longer than I kind of banked on it taking, and longer than I can do in one sitting. So I'm actually going to tidy things up a little. I'm going to just consolidate things that make sense to consolidate, things we've already sorted, and remove things that, you know, they're already going to leave. They're going to be donated or whatever. So those can get out of here so that I can leave the rest of this set up to be continued. But my home isn't like a complete disaster area in the meantime, and we'll be back.
That leaves us with this to deal with, because if I don't actually do something with this, we didn't actually accomplish a lot today. Like if I just put this back in a corner in my house, that's not that different from the corner of my house that it was previously in. So we need to figure out what we're doing with these. Okay, so the organization that I found that I think might want this yarn is one where you're supposed to email them to set up a time to try to do that. So I am doing that now. Fingers crossed. Here goes.
Editing Alley, hi. Editing Alley is actually going to do an outro today, which is a first, but here's what happened. I was editing this and realized, oh, this is the length of a feature film, and I don't just mean like a regular feature film. I mean the kind that like makes people angry about how long it is and start petitioning for movie theaters to introduce intermissions. So in lieu of subjecting you to that all in one sitting, I thought let's split this into a 2-parter. So what you've just watched is the sort of yarn stash tour / decluttering portion. And then in the second part video will be when I'm doing my sort of like notions organizing and figuring out how I'm actually organizing my yarn and all the rest of it sort of in my space in that little cabinet, what I'm doing with everything. And you'll see that very soon. I'm actually planning to release part 2 as sort of a bonus video between videos. So you'll be able to see that next weekend, because I didn't want to go 2 kind of off format videos in a row before I get to do like a standard project update. I didn't want to go that long and just be like, here's a finished object you've never seen before. I feel like that's just less fun. So I'm sorry, you're gonna have to wait on the before and after until next week, but I will try my best to make it worth your while. But after just doing the decluttering and then going through and editing the footage of that, I feel like I can safely say that I need to implement a yarn buying ban for myself. It came up a few times in the process, but just to reiterate, I am just feeling like I have this queue of projects that I need to hurry up and get to so that I can get to the yarn that I want to use. And I know a lot of people have much bigger stashes and mine might look like comical by comparison, but I don't love it in the state that it's at. It's just kind of stressing me out. So I've decided that I'm implementing a sort of a soft ban on myself, by which I mean these are the parameters. So first of all, we have 2 known exceptions to this going in. So exception number 1 is that I'm actually going to be meeting up with friend of the pod, Lauren, in Vancouver very soon and hitting up some yarn stores. So like, do I want to say that I cannot buy any yarn whatsoever when I am meeting in person for the first time my knitting friend? I don't know that I want to do that for myself. I would like to kind of go into that with a very critical eye and with some hesitancy, which Lauren also knows, so hopefully she won't be the worst influence on me. Other exception is if I go to some sort of like yarn or fiber festival, because that also seems a lot less fun if I'm not allowed to buy anything. And again, I would like to, if that does happen, make sure that I'm still trying to be like mindful and kind of restrained in my selections. But so I'm putting in place these 2 exceptions for sort of like on specific dates, in person, like timely sorts of situations, but we are not online yarn shopping. We're not ordering anything. We're paying shipping or duties or brokerage fees, which have been absolutely killing me lately. So my plan is that this is in place until one of the 2 of these things becomes true. So either we hit the end of the calendar year, which I'm saying the end of this is December 26th, because if there's a really good Boxing Day sale on the next yarn that I want to buy, I'm not gonna not buy it just to wait until January. So December 26th, good enough. Or if I actually am like running out of yarn, which I'm defining as out of all of my sort of project quantities of yarn that I have right now, once I've cast on the project that I'm making with my last one, then I'm allowed to order new yarn. So these are the rules that I'm putting in place for myself right now, because I would just feel better if I saw this stash start to dwindle a little bit. So wish me luck on that. There will be plenty of pretty things that I have to resist in the next several months. So if you see any, please don't tell me about them. I don't need to know. That's none of my business. And I'll see you next weekend for part 2. So let me know, have you done a stash declutter recently or organizing? Just what are your, like, what's your sort of status relationship to your stash right now? Do you have any great stash organizing tips that I might want to know for finishing this process up? And if you'd like to be here next time, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. But if you already have, you're my favorite. And I'll see you next time. Bye.